Welcome into the latest episode, the All-Star Break Futures, and I guess what's going to happen in the future edition. I'm your host, Real_G Warner. I'm joined by at A Brooks Bets. We were 8-0 heading into our last podcast, had been undefeated the entire month of June, and then that streak ended. How are you at A Brooks Bets today?
Well, I won. I'm 8-0.
At A Brooks Bets is 8-0. Woo
Yeah,
woo!
yeah.
Alert!
I
Alert!
haven't lost since May 29th.
All right, May 29th. I guess I have some catching up to do. Corrected as I am wrong. At A Brooks Bets, 8-0 has not lost since May 29th. You might want to get in his picks. You might want to follow him at A Brooks Bets on Twitter. I'm just the lowly at the Real_G Warner. I'm just the producer, I guess, at this point. But
Shout
we
out
have
Big East Ben. He was 10-0 in the tournament. I'm gunning
uh,
for him.
I think he was 11-0, but yes, I'll make sure. I know
12-0. Let's go.
I know he watches these as soon as they come out because he just really is dying to be mentioned. So at Big East
Yep.
Ben, you've got someone really hot on your heels, a
Yep.
different sport, baseball instead of the basketball. But we'll get to that later. On this tonight's episode, we're gonna go through it's I guess running up right into the All-Star game in this 2024 season. We're gonna go through some futures and see how much time we can get through. So I will try to speak as little as possible till we get into the real hard-hitting data and content. Um, but we'll try to figure out some way to come out with some ultimate best bets or best bets end of show. But at A Brooks Bets has been very hot, and we will try to keep that going even through this little lull of a period where no sports have gone on besides a horrible national anthem that then had a singer check into rehab less than 24 hours after embarrassing herself on national television. Sounded to me like there was some booze that started, and then people realized they needed to be patriotic right as she finished. But we got a big National League, American League. Got any thoughts on this one before we get into it?
Paul Skeens over 2.5 strikeouts. Right there, or maybe I think the line is 2. So a 2 is a push. Yeah, let's do that. That's
Okay,
that's
because
that's my thought. Who knows how the thing is managed and how it's played and kind of what really happens, but I think he's for real. Um, yeah, we'll
he
see if he
should
can
get
stand
two
up to.
innings. You're expecting
Yeah,
two
I
innings
mean,
from the
if
starters?
if 2 innings, and I feel like it's a lock, as they say.
Mm,
Um, 1 inning still possible.
still very
The
possible.
dude throws heat. I think he's definitely well rested after the dumbass Pirates took him out from his no hitter at 99 pitches. So he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. That reminds me, I need to go on Do Not Disturb. But thank you for saying that. I think we'll see what happens in this start. I'm expecting not a lot of runs in this one, I gotta say. Total at 7 right now. Looks like it'll kick off or first pitch will be thrown at that. We're gonna go
Under
through. I'll
7.
start with division futures. I feel like that's of interest. We can talk about some World Series numbers and the movement that's happened, of course. I actually had them logged from when the season ended last season when the Texas Rangers were celebrating. I pulled some lines that I can tell you, and actually I can
Good
quiz
value now as opposed to then. I'll tell you that.
at A Brooks Bets and see the biggest movers at this point in the season. He might be able to get them. But on this 40-minute episode, it's time to get a little bit deeper. I'll start with the first listed division. That's the NL Central. Currently, have the Milwaukee Brewers a 1-3 favorite to win it. St. Louis Cardinals at plus 450, Reds 14-1, Pirates 14-1, Cubs 16-1. I think the Brewers are up while I load the MLB standing. I believe they're up 4.5 games on the Cardinals at this point. And I guess I'll go
Yes.
through and say the rest of them as well. So Cardinals 4.5 behind, Pirates 6.5 at 14-1, Reds 8 at 14-1, and the Cubs at 16-1 are 8.5 behind. Got any concerns with the Brewers or any thoughts on potentially who could overturn that gap or those gaps?
So upon my research, I learned that the Brewers are the most patient or second most patient team in the big leagues at the plate. The Yankees are either first or second with them, and it's pretty big gap after that. They don't swing very much. They don't chase very much. So that's like the Red Sox had that strategy in I think 2018 or 19. I think Dombrowski was a big guy for that, but it's an interesting strategy for sure. You make your team pitch a lot of pitches. There's been more of an emphasis on the bullpens lately, in the last 5 years for sure. This is an interesting division to me because I don't think that the Brewers are foolproof. I do think that the Cardinals are frauds. They have a negative 38 run differential. The Reds, meanwhile, sitting 8 games back, have a plus 38 run differential. So, I mean, I like to look at runs scored versus runs given up. At this point, we've got a lot of data on that this season. The Reds are a great pitching team, and that's not what they were last year. But with Andrew Abbott and Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, those are 3 guys that I wouldn't really want to face in a playoff series. They're probably 1 or 2 or 3 years away from peaking, but they're good. They're probably going to kind of stand pat at the trade deadline. Again, a lot of this is kind of speculation. In the next 2 weeks, things might change a lot.
Sure.
But at this point, I do think that they'll probably stand pat. I think they'll gain ground. If there was a bet for them to finish over the Cardinals in the division, I'd make it. I do think the Cardinals have been living lucky. The Pirates are interesting to me because I think they're going to win every 5th game. And that's a good anchor to have. Jarrett Jones on the IL is not great for them because I don't think he'll pitch again until August at least. But he
If at
was
all.
kind of like the next Kerry Wood in my mind. I mean, he has that fastball slider combo that everybody worships and everybody should want. I mean, for a good reason. I don't think the Pirates will win the division. O'Neal Cruz has underperformed. You look at superstars who have performed and who have underperformed, and you kind of you think, are they going to come back? Julio Rodriguez, we'll get to in a second, but he's a prime candidate for that. I don't know if you're going to throw a future on this division. I wouldn't bet the Brewers at their price. I wouldn't bet the Cardinals at all. The Pirates, I just don't really quite see it. They do have Brian Reynolds, who's an all-star. He'll be representing Pittsburgh tonight. Their bullpen, I think, is Bednar is better than he pitched in the first half.
Yep.
Aroldis Chapman is still there. He strikes out a lot of people. He's a little bit wild. Everybody knows kind of what he is at this point in his career. The Reds are intriguing to me. The Cubs is the only team I haven't mentioned. They're in dead last. They're 8.5 back. They're not like totally out of it, but I think they're overbet and not a good price either. You want to take a flyer? I'd take the Reds as a flyer at 1,400. It'd be an interesting summer. Like they could catch fire. They could get TJ Friedel back. They could get Matt McClain back. They could, there's a couple of people who they can get. Noelle Marte, who's coming off his IED suspension. So hopefully
IED, PED.
PED. Oh yeah. It's not wrong podcast.
wrong. Oh, yes, definitely. Yes.
So I and maybe hopefully his PEDs was not the reason for his success at the end of last year. He's been a highly regarded prospect for a long time. So coming out of the Mariners system, I would take a flyer on the Reds. I mean, if you got a little bit of change and you're looking to spend it on something, 14-1's not bad. And watch the Reds. I'm a lifelong Reds fan now, apparently because of Ellie. I mean, him and O'Neal Cruz are kind of similar in their tools, right? They're both really tall shortstops. They throw really hard. They play good defense. Ellie especially is super aggressive on the base paths. I guess if I want to lean somewhere, it's definitely going to be the Reds to win this division at 14-1. They can get hot in the second half as we saw last year.
All right. In the interest of time, I think we should probably move on. But before we leave, so I think I'm with you. Don't think the Brewers are that strong at -300. I don't know that the Cardinals are worth it either. I think you'd want to go long shot. If anything, the question is who to pick. Don't hate the Reds idea. I think I'm interested in the Cubs, but 16-1 versus 14-1, having to make up an additional, I guess, only half of a game over the Reds. But I think that speaks to the Pirates not really being that beloved because they're a game and a half ahead of the Reds and have the same price to win it. In terms of sellers and buyers in this division, do you see anyone selling?
No.
I don't see anyone selling. I think the Cubs, I watched their last broadcast before the break, and it seemed like they played really, really well right into the break, which is good timing, but also unfortunate that then they take 5 days off. But I think the Cubs were saying they're just probably not going to do too much buying. but I don't see any sellers either. We'll move next to the NL West. We have the Dodgers minus 2,500. Probably less to be said about this division than any of the rest, but minus 2,500, 1 to 25 on the Dodgers. So if you want to win $100, got to have 2,500 to put down. Padres 16-1, Diamondbacks 18-1, Giants 28-1. And the Rockies not even listed because they're 22 games back. Diamondbacks 7 back, Padres 7 back, and the Giants 9 back. I'll change this around. And do you see any buyers in this division? Because probably we're not going to have a lot of interest in picking a winner that's not named the Dodgers.
The Dodgers are always buyers. I mean, it's almost like it's kind of like a CD at this point, little certificate of deposit. If you have the 2,500 and want to win $100 in the next 2 months, there's no betting against them at this point. I took a flyer on the Diamondbacks at the beginning of the year with a little bit worse price than this, but that's not going to happen. It doesn't seem like. The Padres, I guess, have been buyers in the past. We'll see what their owner wants to do. Maybe he's trying to sell the team.
One game over 500 right now. Okay, go ahead. I mean, the Padres
this is
have
the Dodgers
always
division.
the Padres have always been buying, but that was because their owner was dying, and then
That's what it was. Okay, yeah, he died. Yeah. Okay,
literally, yes.
So
there's a
so
heart PS on their jerseys now. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that was the Dodgers division here.
Yeah, I think it's the Dodgers division. In terms, so that we have the Giants at 28-1 win the division. They are 47-50, 9 games back right now in the division. And then in the wild card, let's see, we have the Giants are 3 games back to the wild card. Is that, I mean, they're a half game ahead of the Cubs. Do we think that the Giants are selling, staying in, staying pat, buying?
I could see them buying. Big market, full ballpark, fun place to play. Maybe.
I agree. No guaranteed.
But I'm not betting them to win division.
I agreed, and I think that's one of those things, and we'll probably say this a lot, is the buyers and are probably the easiest to confirm. Sellers are really hard to say at this point. Yeah. Moving now to the NL East, we have the Philadelphia Phillies, a 1-6 favorite, minus 600 at BetOnline. All lines quoted courtesy of BetOnline, Sportsbetting.ag. If you're not a member of either of those sites and want to make a first-time deposit, you can get some free money. Follow the links in the podcast descriptions on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. But we have the Braves at plus 375 and the New York Mets at 66-1. I'll read the standings. Phillies 8.5 games up on the Braves, 12.5 up on the Mets. Then we have the Nationals 44-53, 9 games under 500. They're 18.5 back, not even listed to win the division, as are the Marlins 30 games under 500 at 29 games back. We know the Marlins are selling. We've already seen the Nationals sell their second highest leverage reliever. Do we see the Braves able to make up an 8.5 game deficit to the Phillies, or I guess the Mets at 12.5? I'll guess probably not.
So the Reds are only 8 back with a less formidable division leader at 1,400. That's a wild difference. People think that the Braves can come back. They have been, I guess, unlucky on offense this year. They hit the ball the hardest of any team in the big leagues. Average exit velocity is number 1. They also whiff a little bit more than you'd want. They're in top 5 of whiff percentage. So if all things go great for the Braves, which they've gone terribly so far with Strider and Acuna going down for the season, you can't lose the Cy Young favorite and the MVP favorite and still be awesome. I'm not sure. Books might have some liabilities on the Braves, I guess, which is why they're not priced very high. I'm not betting the Braves to come back 8.5 games against the Phillies, who I think are good and probably have the best pitching staff in baseball.
Yeah. One interesting thing or maybe way to explain that is when you look at the breakdown of the first half, of course, unbalanced schedules, definitely, but also the Phillies are 37-16 at home. So that's 53 home games. The Braves 29-17. That's only 46. So there's going to be 7 more home games, I think, if my math is correct, for the Braves to make up. That does mean something. Is that enough to swing 8.5 games? I don't think so, especially missing your best hitter and best starting pitcher, which really has been a huge hole, specifically the starting pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. I don't really see it. Certainly don't see the Mets 12.5 having to leapfrog both of those teams. But the Mets are currently the last wild card team all of these teams should be buyers. I don't even think it's worth asking you. So we'll move next to a little bit more interesting side of things, the AL East division futures. With the Yankees minus 120, $120 will win 100. The Orioles at minus 105, and the Red Sox 16 to 1, Rays 200 to 1, Blue Jays 500 to 1. Probably not a lot to discuss there in terms of games back. So we have the Orioles, who did have an incredible walk-off victory to end the first half after blowing a save, and then two like
It was
Boston Red
beautiful.
Sox style defensive errors from the Yankees. Only one, I think, called an error, but I think honestly Alex Verdugo's missed fly ball was, I think, even more egregious than Anthony Volpe's fumbling a ground ball at shortstop, and their back-to-back plays absolutely unbelievable and unbearable. But the Orioles 1 game up on the Yankees, 4.5 up on the Red Sox, 10 on the Rays, and 14 on the Blue Jays. Currently, the Rays are 48 and 48, so right at 500. Could argue that they probably, they've already sold one reliever, literally for cash, to the New York Mets. They are currently 5.5 games back of that last wild card spot held by the Boston Red Sox. What do we think about the Rays and selling further, trying to still win, but also trying to clear off some salary potentially to free up what they've going to have to buy back when they need a shortstop now that Wander Franco looks like he's out of the game forever?
No, they're selling. They're the biggest sell team of all time, probably, or at least in their short lives since 1995. There's no way that the Rays come back. There's no way that the Jays come back. And I really don't think there's any way that the Red Sox come back either and win the division. The Red Sox should make the playoffs, and they should be buyers. Let's hope.
Okay.
And then I think I like the Orioles to win this just because probably the Yankees are overbet. The Orioles do have the game lead. They're a good squad. Like they're gonna buy. They're actually the most rumored for Crochet right now. So like they added Burns at the beginning of the season, then you get Crochet and you get Grayson Rodriguez pitching up to where he needs to be. I know they've had a couple injuries with Bradish and whatever, but I like the Orioles to win this division at the slight. You got to pay a little bit of juice, 105, but
Yeah.
better than the Yankees at minus 120.
Yeah, and I would recommend shopping around. You probably can find better prices on a lot of these, depending on which books have had probably a bigger exposure to whichever team. Another scheduled difference here. The Orioles have played 52 home games, the Yankees only 44. So that should be something that might help the Yankees, but the Yankees actually much better on the road this season so far. Unbalanced schedules can certainly speak to that, but 12 games over 500 are the Yankees right now on the road, only 6 at home, where the Orioles are.
The Yankees have serious problems. That's a question. Like they've been really struggling over the last month. The Red Sox, I know, have made up 10.5 games over the last 28 days, I think. The Red Sox have been hot. I'm not saying that they're gonna overtake the Yankees at all, but I think the Yankees will be buyers. Obviously, we'll see what happens at the deadline, but I think they do have some serious problems. I don't think Cole is healthy or he's not doing great. They have Judge and Soto, and I think that might be it. People are getting all excited about Ben Rice, and they got Verdugo and Torres making errors like crazy. I mean, it looks a little bit like the Red Sox, who do lead the league in errors this year, but I love the August and July swoon of the Yankees and where it puts their fans. But I'm not sure that means that they're in complete trouble. I just think that the Orioles are more solid. They've got a strong base of fans. They've got, I don't know, like you said, the Yankees have more home games, but are they going to get booed soon? I mean, we'll see. We'll see. The Yankees are a team to watch for me.
Yeah, the Yankees are never far from getting booed. So I think it will happen at some point this year for sure.
Judge is not that far from getting hurt. Stanton's not far from getting hurt.
Well, Stanton hasn't been playing for a long time. He's supposed to come back after the All-Star break, but it seems to be every season the Yankees start to play poorly when one of those two giant Goliaths goes down. We saw it with Giancarlo Stanton, who was having a really good year until he got hurt. We already see Judge and Stanton barely running out ground balls. So anytime they hit something on the ground to an infielder with any sort of player on base, it's usually a double play. I think it's a huge problem for the Yankees. they're honestly a team that I have not had a lot of success betting, but betting against I have over the years. My biggest question though with the Orioles though is while there are certainly flaws in the Yankees, I think they are more willing or more likely to buy than the Orioles will be. I mean, we'll see just based on budgets, new owners in Baltimore, of course, can change things from time to time. The Yankees have not been the buy at all cost teams like we would expect from them over the years with the elder Steinbrenner, who's no longer with us at the helm. But I think I'm most interested just in that Yankees getting more home games, and we'll see how healthy Giancarlo Stanton is. There were rumors that he'd come back without rehab games, which does seem a little bit concerning to me. But they need him. I think they're a big concern with Carlos Rodon as well, and his fastball that's been getting literally tattooed lately. And my big question for the Orioles, you mentioned it, is their health of their pitching. And I don't really know that I believe. Of course, Craig Campbell's been awesome over his career. I'm not sure that I trust him very much, and I feel like it's him and Yennier Cano right now in that bullpen with Colomé on the IL. They're going to have to add there. I think they will. Bullpen seems to be the easiest area to add. I don't think the Red Sox have much of a chance, but I think the Red Sox certainly are in a good spot leading the wild card right now as we move now to the American League Central. We have the Cleveland Guardians minus 170 to win the Central, Twins plus 170, Royals plus 750, and the Detroit Tigers 150 to 1. In terms of where these standings are, the Guardians are 4.5 games up on the Twins, 7 on the Royals, and 12 on the Tigers. The White Sox are not even worth talking about. So, do you see any potential flaws or problems for the Guardians in this second half?
I mean, huge flaws. They hit the ball the least hard. They're on the opposite end of the spectrum as the Braves. Their expected slugging percentage is not very high. It's bottom 5. Their pitching has always been kind of their calling card with Shane Bieber going out. It's that was earlier, and they've sustained it, no doubt. I do have a little bit of questions about the Guardians. I think this division might be the most exciting kind of in the second half. I mean, these are games like the Royals are 7 games over 500, and they're kind of sitting there. They've got the almost, so the Guardians are 85 over on run differential. The Twins are only 47 and the Royals are 60. So it's not like a huge variance there, but I think that all these teams are, solidly in the green as far as run differential goes. Head-to-head games are going to matter a ton coming down the stretch. I know that division teams don't play 19 times against each other anymore, but kind of wish they did. I don't know. That's a different topic. These head-to-head games are going to matter a lot in this division. The White Sox are just a stomping mat, so even that, like, you got to sweep the White Sox to kind of keep pace, sort of division.
Which is a big deal for wild card stuff, which the Twins currently half a game up on the Red Sox for the second wild card. Royals 2 games back at the Red Sox as we speak.
Right. Yeah. The Red Sox took 2 out of 3 just last weekend to kind of, make their case for the wild card. And I think that's good. That's good vibes going forward. The Royals here at this flyer price, I think, is not a bad plus 750. I don't think
7
that's
games
a bad bet
back,
either.
7.5 to 1. Okay.
Yeah. You're betting on Bobby Witt being awesome. You're betting on Seth Lugo being the best pitcher in baseball, or having the most wins and the lowest ERA. Like, some people would consider that the best pitcher in the first half. He's not starting tonight, I don't think, but he's there. He was a big time prospect with the Mets. Maybe he's figured something out. Maybe he's added another pitch. You never know what these guys can do. Stay healthy, and Salvi Perez is a big time, maybe Hall of Famer type guy who's been there a long time, a forever Royal. I don't mind the Royals at this price. I don't know if you know the home game splits with him. Have they played more home or away?
Here, I can read it to you. So the Guardians, honestly, this is incredible to me. They've only played 41 home games, but have, I think, the hardest or second hardest schedule down the stretch of all teams. And that was actually put out by the Guardians broadcast when I screenshot it and sent it to you. But the Guardians have won 73%, more than 73% of their home games this season, 30-11. That's incredible. Only 2 games over away from home, though. But they played 41 at home versus 54 away. So that's 13 difference. And that's a really good sign for the Guardians, even with a very hard schedule. Home games don't matter that much when we're winning at that type of rate. That probably will regress to the mean, and especially because the Guardians were not expected to be that good coming into the season. All wild, and maybe it's been Stephen Vogt, or maybe it's just been an incredible bullpen. But we'll see how long that bullpen lasts. That's my biggest concern with the Guardians, is that ultimately they've been covering not as many innings as you'd expect for how dominant the bullpen's been, but they have no starting pitching. They've sent Tristan McKenzie down already, Logan Allen as well, trying to get outs from Spencer Howard, who's on his, I think, third team this season. Plus, Ben Lively's resurgence has been great, but Cookie Carrasco should be out of that rotation ASAP if they had another option. I just don't think they do. In terms of the Royals, they have played 49 games at home versus 20, versus 48 away. So that's pretty even. And I think the biggest glaring issue right now for the Royals, they're 6 games under away from home, 13 games over at home. And we've both been pretty interested in the Royals and backing them at home so far this season. But Twins and Guardians both over 500 away and at home. So that's probably the biggest question. And as you mentioned, try to get as many wins as you can against the White Sox. The biggest deal, I think, moving forward in this division. And then how you do in the head-to-heads. We've seen both the Twins and the Royals take 3 out of 4 at home against the Guardians just in the past couple weeks. So to me, I think the Guardians still look great, and you don't want to be in a bullpen battle with them. But I just got to say, they seem to be leaking oil a little bit. So that's certainly an area I'd like to be against them. I feel like I'd rather have the Twins at 4.5 games back than the 7 games back for the Royals. But to that end, I mean, 2.5 games back with less than 2-1 versus 7.5-1. That's a pretty significant difference, especially because the Royals just acquired some much needed bullpen help before anyone else could, way before the trade deadline as well. I think getting a big start. Now, I think for the most competitive of all the divisions, you could argue the AL East was certainly one. We'll get the AL West right now. We have the Mariners 1 game up on the Astros, 5 games up on the Rangers, 10 on the Angels, and 15 on the Athletics. Mariners have had no success really since 2001 in terms of winning divisions that I can remember. And I think they will be feeling a lot of pressure, and probably already have, as they saw a pretty big lead shrink to only 1 game. And that was with the Rangers winning a series in Houston right before the All-Star break started. Currently, the Mariners minus 110 to win division. Astros, like the Orioles, second. I guess the Orioles were leading, but Astros minus 105, 1 game back. Rangers at 11-1 are 5 games back, currently 4 games under 500. And the Angels 200-1 is the last team listed. They are 10 games back. I know that you have some interest in the Rangers winning this division. Why don't you start off there with what you think about their chances, and then how you feel about the division?
So when I started, I thought, hold on the original bet, wait for the second half. I mean, that's always been my mindset. And of course, when that happens and this comes true, it means that the Rangers haven't played very well. And it means you have to suck that up and you have to figure it out. Are they going to be better? Are they going to be the World Series champions in the second half? I'm going to lean with yes. I'm going to lean at 1,100. I mean, 11-1. I think so. Scherzer's back. His workload is not even limited really anymore. He's going in the 7th inning and stuff already.
Yep.
DeGrom might come back, and if he does, he's otherworldly. Evan Carter has been hurt. Wyatt Langford has been heating up. Josh Young is maybe out for the year. I don't know.
No, so he broke his wrist. I mean, I have him
Yep.
literally on all 4 of my fantasy teams,
Yep.
which I think you are competing against me in
Guy
2.5
Josh
this week.
Smith can play
Yeah.
everywhere, and he's been
I mean,
good. He clutch hits too, like not just.
He had 2 2-run shots on Sunday to win that game,
Yep.
literally by himself against
Right.
Ronel Blanco, and then against, I think, Montero out of the bullpen.
Adolis Garcia is still in that lineup. Like Corey Seager has been hurt for a month, but he's back now, and he should be near MVP form. I mean, he's a top 10 hitter in the big leagues when he's healthy. I do like the Rangers this second half. I do like them at 11-1. And it's mostly because I really don't like the Mariners. They strike out a lot. Their pitching has been carrying them, and probably for good reason. That they do have good pitchers. They have pitchers who I think can keep going, but their expected stats in the pitching department are the biggest variant right now in those terms. So it's like 20 points in WOBA. There's been a lot of data, but they have been the luckiest I guess you could say, in the pitching department. So are they going to keep that up with Kirby and Gilbert? And it's just their bullpen's good too. They play at a pitcher's park. I get it. Julio Rodriguez is going to be key for them. He's got to get back with his power stroke. He's got to get more than just kind of base hits. He's been playing a lot better over the last month, but the first couple were terrible. If you invested him in fantasy, he's like the 500th ranked player. He's just not good.
Oof.
He strikes out a ton, and as does the whole team. Cal Raleigh and other, they all do. So I don't like that. In this day and age, I know that they think strikeouts don't matter quite as much. I kind of disagree. There are teams that put the ball in play, like the Guardians. The Guardians don't whiff. They have the least expected slugging, but they're in first in their division and they're doing fine with their good pitching and their elite bullpen. I don't like the Astros are they made a run, like, right. They started out terribly. And so that's why I kind of I didn't double down on my Rangers bet because the Astros were so greatly priced. I thought there's probably more coming from them, and it has for sure. But the Rangers at 11-1, give me a little taste of that.
Yeah, I don't blame you for it. I was all over and hoping that the Astros would be still a little bit behind the Mariners so we could get a better price. I'm still going to hold out hope that that comes about, and maybe some Rangers money might potentially balance that out at BetOnline or at Sportsbetting.ag or across the marketplace at other places where you could get better numbers. I don't think the Mariners will win this division. I think it's between the two Texas teams. And certainly there's a lot to be said for the Rangers, though I do think having to make up 4 games on the Astros is significant. They do have 4 more home games in the second half, but I don't love seeing the Rangers 7 games under 500 on the road so far to start the season. Of course, schedules are unbalanced, and it's hard to say that that is a guarantee that the Rangers are not a good road team, but they've also had to survive a first half with a ton of money on IL stints. Josh Young, I think, is a huge key to that lineup to come back, though I just don't think the lineup will produce like it did last season. But with that all said, they were a wild card team that made it and made a really deep run in the postseason. They had a great lineup the entire season, had definitely some ebbs and flows, but the lineup was pretty consistent. Their pitching should be a lot better. If they can get anywhere close to where they were hitting for a lot of last season, then I think they are a huge concern. And they've got to be one of the scarier teams in the playoffs after the run they did last season. I think my pick would probably be, I'd have more interest in the Astros winning that division, but I think we are together in not believing in the Seattle Mariners, which I think is a reasonable position to take. As we've got about 10 minutes left in this episode.
Well, and just real quick, interestingly there, I don't think anybody's going to make the wild card in that division. Like, I think you're going to have to win it. I mean, the Rangers are 5 games back of their own division and 7.5 games back in a wild card spot. They're 46-50. They're 4 games under 500. So like, that's going to be a true division battle. You're going to have to overtake those teams. And so I think they're going to, save pitchers and do stuff to beat their own division, because that's what they're going to need.
Okay, so let me get to the wild card standings. So the Yankees are the first wild card in the American League, 3.5 games up. Twins 1.5 game up of the Red Sox, the final wild card. We got Royals that are clearly buying, 2 games back. Astros are 3.5 back. They are 4 games over 500. You would say they are buyers, yes?
Yes. The Astros are buyers, but they're going to win their own division and maybe not make the wild card. They don't have to buy as much to the wild card. They're 3.5 back in the wild card, 1 in their own division.
They have some injured pitchers that need to come back because they've also been trying to really just make chicken salad out of chicken. You know what? I think my big question is, and you've already said it, you think the Rays 5.5 games back at 500 right now in the season, a minus 63 run differential is pretty ugly, but you think that they are sellers?
Yeah, I think the Rays are sellers. They're always sellers. Candelario is the only thing that I'm kind of intrigued about. He had an IL stint for a month in the minors with a quadricep. They're still trying to do the Super 2 thing or whatever.
Caminero. Yes.
And he's hopefully the replacement for Wander Franco, but they don't have enough. It's too little too late for them. They don't buy big ever.
Yeah, they've been very reluctant to bring him up, it feels to me. So, okay, so that's a pretty easy line of demarcation according to at A Brooks Bets. Feel free to slide in his DMs if you disagree, or I would love to hear it too. But that tells me we got the 3 division leaders plus 3 teams in the wild card positions. Then we go to a 7th team, the Royals, 8th team, the Astros, and we cut off at the Rays, who we don't expect to be buyers. Not for the Tigers, not for the Rangers, who have said that they are, or at least Max Scherzer said he's not looking to get traded. So that's a good sign, I think, for the Rangers, and we'll see what happens. Blue Jays 9.5 back are pretty proud as a franchise. But at A Brooks Bets has been pretty down on them for this entire season. Confirm for me that they are sellers.
I don't think they're going to sell that much, but they're not going to buy. Like I think they'll rebound next year. Vladdy Guerrero and
That's the name
Boguchet,
I
they've
was
all
waiting
been
for.
rumored, but like that was a core they thought was going to be great. I don't think they'll sell them right now. I don't think they're going to give up right now. They are a proud franchise, like you said. They've got the entire country behind them.
They do.
It's just I don't think they'll buy really either.
My
Their
my
bullpen's the
thing,
worst in the league.
I think that Vladdy Guerrero, based on his contract and how bad the season has gone for the Blue Jays, I think there's a good chance they try to move him. Maybe they don't get the asking price they're looking for, but he's been kind of the only thing in that lineup too. And I do think that that would be a huge hit to the fan base if they sell or trade Vladdy Guerrero. Moving to the NL, we'll summarize this before we move on to anything else we can get to in the last few minutes. With the Philadelphia Phillies, they are leading the East, Dodgers the West, Brewers the Central. 3 wild cards. We have the Braves, Cardinals, and Mets. Then we have the Diamondbacks 1 game behind. They are 1 game over 500. They should be selling, or excuse me, they should be buyers or at least not selling.
Sure.
Padres 1 game back. Pirates 1.5 games back. They are at 500.
Yeah. I took a flyer on the Pirates to win the World Series at 60-1, I believe, a month ago. Jared Jones going down, like I said, hurts, but Paul Skeens is otherworldly as long as he stays healthy. The Reds 3 games back. The Giants 3 games back. The Cubs only 3.5 games back. That is the wild card race to watch right there. I mean, you got 6 teams that aren't leading their division that still have a huge chance to make the playoffs. The Nationals have been good to bettors if you backed them early. I don't think they're really in it for the long haul.
They've already sold. I'm unless they have some incredible run here, I think they will continue to sell. But then confirm for me. So the Chicago Cubs, are they sellers, buyers, standing pat?
They'll probably buy. They should buy. I mean, they're I don't know what their farm system's like. I'm not a true Cubs.
Apparently weak. Apparently weak, according to the broadcast I watched.
So I don't know what they're going to buy from. What their kind of cash is.
We're talking about Mason Miller because they do need bullpen help. But that to me, if you're going for Mason Miller, you're giving up a lot.
Huge.
And you are trying
3 years of control.
You are trying to win the World Series. When we saw Cole Reagans go for Aroldis Chapman last year, worked out for the Rangers because they won the World Series, but that was a huge deal. And the Cubs don't seem to have that. They're not that close. I feel like the Cubs, I think they're probably at best staying where they are, trying to deal Cody Bellinger. Maybe that went out the window because he got his hand broken, the hit by pitch, just running into the All-Star break. I think we need to see a huge run up until the end of July for the Cubs to buy. The Giants 3 games back. I feel like I think they are more likely to sell than the Cubs personally, just because I think they realize they can't win the division and they have a lot they need to rebuild moving forward, but that's yet to be seen. And we've seen the Reds, they're a young team. I think they're more one of those teams that'll kind of stay. One thing I wanted to get to before we got too deep in this podcast, and we'll see if we have some time for a best bet end of show. Probably most likely to be surrounding.
It won't be a best bet that counts on my record here.
It will not, and it won't be graded for 4 months anyway. So it's fine. For the World Series odds, I wanted to get to that. Do you have a guess at who has changed the most from the last day, or I guess the first day of this season, technically from November 2nd, 2020?
Got to be the Rangers in the backwards way.
So that I guess that would be the next question. That's
in the forwards way.
Biggest drop has been, or I guess the odds changing to the worst of teams that are relevant and in the race would be the Rangers. I'm saying who has changed the most in terms of from not being expected to win the World Series to now being expected to.
I don't know. Who is it?
So that answer, I figured you might be able to guess these two, but the Cleveland Guardians have changed like exponentially. They went from 50-1 odds on November 2nd, 2023, now currently 14-1. A 257% decrease. I was going to say
what? Got 20 seconds left.
Okay.